of the second episode. Yeah, not even just the second episode. Second recording of the second episode of Hobby Hammer, as Miles, who is joining me today, has come up with. Co-host Miles.
We enjoyed recording so much this morning, we decided to do it all over again tonight.
The same topics all over again.
The same topic, we're going to have the same conversation, we're going to do exactly everything the same. But I think we've both had quite stressful days today, weirdly. Like, nothing's gone right for me today, from the recording to making a Fulgrim tutorial. Even small things like getting the editing correct, clicking the wrong buttons. I dropped a load of snacks earlier. It just feels like everything that could have gone wrong has gone wrong today. So I'm finishing off my day with a beer.
Yes, which is, if I've decided to leave it in, why I was slagging off Moretti at the start.
We're not going for the sponsorship.
No, fuck you, Moretti. So today we've got we're going to do a positivity sandwich rather than a compliment sandwich. And
it's tea time, we're hungry.
Yeah, exactly. It's just food's on the mind. And that's because we've got the new releases from the LVO of the pre-order that we're going to talk about. Miles has informed me that he wants to be incredibly dreary and then struggle to pick himself back up after talking about a certain heresy pre-order. And then we've got what is going on in our hobby this week and most weeks, in that we're going to cover our old world Slowgrow and where we're up to with that, even though it's not really started yet. We're about to kick it off. Yeah, anything I missed out there, Miles?
Brought me down already.
You're just thinking about the heresy pre-order.
Because normally the middle's the best bit, right? It's the pastrami, it's the meat, it's the cheese, and the sandwich is either side of it. In this analogy, the bread, the bit you hold on to, is the positive bits. But
so,
let's not let's not deconstruct this too much.
No, I'm going to. Right, so what we've got is, because this is just a continuation of our hobby cast, like we just having a chat. That's the purpose of this, and we're going to have some hobby in there, and it's whatever we want to talk about this week. So it's going to be heresy. Yeah. If you join us for the first time, it's going to be heresy some weeks, fantasy, whatever. You've just painted some.
Whatever we want to talk about.
Yeah.
Whatever we want. We're making no promises. We don't want to be hemmed into any particular subject. It's just whatever's rattling around in our brains for that particular week, we're going to talk about.
And this time
if we get a little bit of hobby. Yeah, if we get a little hobby done beside it, that is the aim. So this morning, I was doing some gap filling on some Slaves to Darkness miniatures, if I can find this guy. So I was doing a little bit of gap filling. Very helpful, because in my day-to-day as a professional miniature painter, I don't get that many opportunities to actually do hobby for myself. So this has become sort of like a little oasis in my week that I plan to just geek out on and do a bit of hobby.
Yeah, well, I'm the same. Like, do lots of gaming for the channel at the moment, but modeling, sculpting was something I really enjoyed, and painting, and I've just not been able to do it in, well, just the channel's an excuse, but in a long time now.
Yeah. And I'm very aware what we sound like. I'm very aware, like, woe is me. I get to paint all day. Oh my Lord. Like, all I do all day is paint miniatures and talk to people about painting miniatures. And I'm so exhausted and stressed out by this experience that I need to have this little oasis in my week. I know how it sounds.
We've just both declared ourselves as dickheads, basically.
Yeah. Every job comes with the stresses. All right, I'm allowed to get stressed out. I'm going to give myself that mental space to be stressed out. So fuck you for judging me.
Right. So yeah, in the close of the baguette analogy, I think it's a freshly baked baguette on the outside, and old left out spam on the inside. And yeah, so we'll talk about
the new releases?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, LVO. Yeah, so we got up the Warhammer community website. We're going to kind of like hit them step by step. First on the agenda is the Kill Team box set, which has the Night Lords that have been previewed already, and the new Mandrakes. So what's your vibe? What's your feeling? What's your takeaway from this?
The Mandrakes, I'm not really that interested in knife-edged models. Like, the dirty beard cutters just don't interest me at all. So I'm not that much interested in mandrakes. They're quite nice as mandrake models go, but do you know, like, it's a very skippable one for me. And I apologise to all the elf players out there in Eldar, but
I'm a big
it's not.
elf player, especially dark elf player. These sculpts are good, very good. I think they suffer in comparison, especially to like WR Tell miniatures. But that's an unfair comparison to make because, I mean, Games Workshop is the host IP for this. I'm not a big fan of like big flaming bits on miniatures anyway. I think it's one of those extra ocular effects, a bit like a hollow field from a Harlequin or the lightning strikes on Night Lord armor. But that's a very minor grievance. Like, I'm looking for things to nitpick. They're very much in line with previous sculpts, Jez Goodwin sculpts, amazing sculpts. They're a very solid release. And alongside these come another really solid release in the form of the Night Lords kit.
Yeah, and I think both of us, like, we're mainly heresy players as well as going into the old world and fantasy and stuff. Looking at this kit as what a heresy player could do with it is amazing. Like, mixing it into other heresy tactical squads or like whatever armor you want to like put it with, whatever mark.
Yeah,
I think
the look of these guys. The look of these guys is very concentrated chaos, right? It's very concentrated Night Lords. I think you buy this set, you can spread out maybe a unit, a couple of units, like thread a few Night Lords bits in there. I think it'll be very in keeping, very in tune with the heresy aesthetic, whatever that is.
My favourite bit of this kit is the Vexilla. By far, a marine with all the implant plugs, like for the black carapace and stuff, strung up on a banner. Like, you might need to remove that Octed, but also it could just be late heresy Octed. And
yeah, it's easy enough to do a little bit of milliput, a little bit of isopropyl alcohol. You create like this little mix, put it over the top. It's done and dusted. I think that might be one of the most popular pieces from any kit released because the amount, I mean, I want it for my Sons of Horus. I think it'd be cool to stick on the front of Rhinos, maybe for 40k. It's just a cool bit to have.
Yeah, so I look forward to meeting everyone in the queues to get them off bit sites. So next, we'll go on to the Kroot Far Stalker Kindred.
Now, before the show started, you didn't want to mention these. You wanted to skip over these.
Yeah. So Miles is performing the double cross here.
Yeah.
God damn it. I got him with that.
That's
in the
a very
first
meta
recording.
joke. That was a really meta. So this morning, you accused me of not wanting to include them. Now I'm accusing you. Yeah, Kroot, it's unusual we get to see Xenos releases like this, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's quite a large release. It's bigger than I thought when I first saw the pictures. It's like a
box.
full army box.
Yes, it's a whole army box, yeah.
Yeah, and the quality of the shaper that's on screen at the moment, and then just going through to the bow-armed, whatever you would call this, Rambo Kroot.
Rambo Kroot,
is really, really good. Like, I love the character in the models, like the small
the
details.
Native American aesthetic.
Yeah.
Yeah, Native American aesthetic, the small details, the fact you can paint them in different colors, the new Kroot miniatures. I mean, yeah, they're a tactical unit essentially. You know, I've seen mixed reaction to them online, love them or hate them. You got the Kill Team box set, which is full of already great. I mean, is this the way Games Workshop are releasing unpopular armies now, where they trial it with a Kill Team, and they'll slowly start producing kits around it, and then release an army box, and all of a sudden, there's an army that you can buy for the Kroot.
A prediction already on the cat is an army.
I think this is just what they're doing. Yeah, I think this is just what they're doing, right? Because now you have access to a full Kroot army if you chose to.
Yeah, yeah, because they've redone the Krootox. They've got like, I'm going to call these Narlock riders because they're not Narlock but whatever. It might even be just a Krootox rider, but they've got a really fleshed out sort of 6 units, and that are really well done. So I'm not a Kroot player myself, but I do admire from afar all of the like it seems to be people's like passion projects on Instagram. There's there's a good number of like high level Kroot converters. So I am an appreciator of Kroot. From that.
I mean, it's a little bit like you mentioned, the Steel Legion guys, whoever produces Steel Legion miniatures. The Mordheim group are just full of really passionate, dedicated hobbyists. And yeah, I agree. Weirdly, I've seen some really good conversions for the Ash Waste Nomads, using these kits and splicing them up with the Ash Waste Nomads, the plastic kit, to give them sort of like that not human silhouette. And like the three fingers, it works tremendously well. So I in one of the million and other one of projects that I have planned and in my mind, I'd love to do an Ash Waste Nomad band with some of these incorporated into them.
Yeah, even that's an achievable project is 10, 15 Ash Waste Nomads made out of Kroot.
I mean, that's the appeal of Necromunda. You paint 12, 15 guys, and that's it. You have a playable collection, and you can build on top of it. Should we move on? Big hit for the Kroot. Big hit for the Kroot.
So we've
Dawnbringers.
Oh, I skipped them entirely. Highlights. Highlights reel. So it's next. I've got the Dark Elf Sorceress with wings.
Yes. Those are those. I think they're called the Dawnbringers.
Oh right, okay, cool. Yeah.
The Crone Seer heralds the arrival of Dawnbringer 5.
Dawnbringer 5.
I don't really know what that means.
Is this a Star Trek reference or a Fargate reference?
Where was Dawnbringer 1 to 4?
Jesus. Yeah, yeah. Like what the fuck is this? But anyway,
I missed.
Fluff aside, this is an amazing model for me. Like from a completely personal sort of point of view, I've used a lot of is it the Raven Coven or the Crow Coven from Warcry?
Oh, for Warcry,
yeah. As aspiring champions and exalted champions in my Chaos army that'll be featured on the channel. But this, as a continuation of that, maybe as a sorcerer or aspiring champion with magic carpet to represent the wings, is just perfect. And the composition of the model and just how foreboding it looks in the silhouetted. I think it's really, really
finally we get a Raven Guard Praetor release. It's finally here.
Am I going to have to laugh? I was laughing then at the fact that I've heard that 3 times.
Oh God, yeah, that's the thing. Like, I feel like this cast lacks punch because you've heard these jokes already. So we're going to have to drink a little bit more so we can laugh at our own jokes again. No, I think this is a great miniature. From the silhouette, like you say, I like those wings. I can see those being used in different aspects. It would be interesting to use this miniature sort of like as a crone in a Warriors of Chaos army. I've very much got these in my head at the moment, the different tribes, how they worship different aspects of chaos. So there's a crow tribe, and you kind of get the feel the Zinchian, the one worships the dog, that kind of thing. So these guys would worship the crow. You have a crow, a hag seer in here. Great. Even if you're not into AOS, you don't care about the lore, it's on its own as a miniature, a very good miniature, and you can appreciate it for that.
Yeah.
And very shapely feet as well, if you're into that.
I wanted to say that one this time.
I got in there before you. Sorry.
Yeah. No.
I mean, you could do it now.
Do you know what? It's very natural. This is such a weird point to focus on that we both thought about looking at this model. It's really natural looking feet, and it's something I think a lot of models don't have. It's sort of like you get to the feet area, and then it's like it's an afterthought. They've not thought about it.
Drawing feet and hands are exceptionally hard. I think it was there's one artist who never included them in his work because he couldn't do them. Someone like Da Vinci, someone like that. But yeah, he couldn't articulate that. Like I can't draw hands, so to have them. Joe else has really shapely feet. The classic Lilith Hesprax sculpt.
Yes, yeah, I know. I know
the second version of her. Very good feet. Okay, this is spawning a segment. Listeners out there, watchers out there, what miniatures have the best feet?
And it doesn't have to be. Does it have to be naked feet, or does it have to be?
Doesn't have to be naked feet as long as they're shapely. Any feet that you get off to, Make sure you hashtag Hobbyhammer and
The
post up on
footcast.
social media. There's something here to be mined, I feel.
Yes, some data. Right. So moving on from the Crone, we have the Witch Hunter Warband is what I've gone to next. And that's
Yes.
got... I've started on like the dual pistol Witch Hunter guy because I just everyone loves a Moritat, so
Yeah.
it's like a gunfighter. Have you ever jumped through the air while firing two guns?
Oh, have you seen Sunny in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
Yeah.
When Frank
And I
took
came
it,
out
and then I started
blasting.
blasting. Yeah, then I started blasting.
So the next one is the Witch Hunter lamp carrying person.
Lamp lady.
Is that a
Oh, is it a
lady?
lady?
He's got
No,
mutton
sorry,
chops.
it's a guy. Sorry, he's got mutton chops. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Very. So with the slight hips and the big heels, it's the feet that's throwing me. Yeah.
Always focused on the feet.
It's the feet. Yeah, very feminine feet. No, great, yeah, great miniature, great silhouette, great flow to the miniature. It just frustrates you that there's no more time gang. Well,
What, the
I
Witch
guess if
Hunters?
they had, yeah, exactly. I mean, if you had an official more time game, it wouldn't exactly dilute the outrageous talent that game system has already.
Yeah.
Because like the Kroot modelers, you see outrageous modeling and it just otherworldly modeling. So having easier access to it, I guess, wouldn't dilute that anyway. It's nice having the options. It's
The
nice
only
having these
counterpoint to
options.
that is I think it's in a really nice place viewing it now. And
Yeah.
if not other people getting involved, certainly like I'd love everyone to start playing more time on a mass scale again. I wouldn't want Games Workshop to change the tone of that, the potential change in tone of more time.
Agreed.
I'm scared about. So
Agreed.
on to the next one. We've got like a cat burglar with a rope
Yeah.
and a grappling hook.
I think this is a woman this time, maybe. I mean,
I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to agree with you.
Okay,
There. Based
it's a
on the
woman.
feet.
Yeah. Yes, based on. Yes, I could tell it's a woman by the feet. Yeah. Again, really nice dynamic for a pose. Has a sort of like D&D thief feel to it.
Yeah, it's not one that we have to. But we're not going to talk about all of these in detail, and indeed, we're going to skip some of them.
But this next one, we're going to luxuriate a little bit on this next
go on,
piece.
I'll let you wax lyrical about this.
How to describe this? It looks like an elderly lady with her cat. She has a power fist and a sword.
Is it not an infinity gauntlet?
Infinity Gauntlet, yeah, with her Infinity Cat next to her. This, I think, must be the most Warhammer model there's ever been. She's got the fur, she's got the key through like she's got the opera face, Phantom of the Opera face going on. You can use this in so many different systems, and this is what I love about Warcry and these kind of like smaller releases. It's the characterization that they're able to put into each and every miniature. You could easily use her in Warcry. You could use her in factions of AOS, I'm sure, Free Cities of Sigmar. When I saw her, I thought that was a Necromunda miniature. I thought that was sort of like a new fixer for Necromunda.
Do you know what? I thought it was like a rogue trader. Because they've already done a rogue trader in the Euclidean Star Striders, I think it's called. And I thought this was another rogue trader. But then it also works perfectly as you view it a bit more. It works perfectly for that fantasy world because it's very, I want to say Blanche with exaggerated like features and stuff. Models that are spawned off that sort of like line of thought. I think this is one of them, and largely they can be crossed between many systems. Yeah.
So Mistress Verentia. I think it's Varentia. Mistress Varentia, the Weaver of Secrets.
Yeah. Well, any more?
And her cat.
And
there's a Sigmarine at the end. That's. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Sigmarines, but that is quite a nice Sigmarine miniature. Skip. Yeah. It's nice. It's nice for it.
The trouble is with Sigmarines, and people will have this same argument, and I get it, about Space Marines, though I don't think that because they're very samey because the armor's very similar. and there's not that many poses you can get armor into that looks natural.
Yeah.
They all tend, and the paint scheme's very similar. It looks very samey, so I didn't include it.
I get it. I mean, it's harder for me to get excited about Space Marine releases now, purely because like the Mark III, the Mark VI, we've seen them before. So when they're getting reintroduced, like, oh, that's great. I love that they're in plastic, but that's why I'm far more enthusiastic about a release we'll be talking about today after the zombies and the necromancer.
Yeah, so this like necromancer, I think it's amazing for use for, like, say, a necrarch for the old world, like a necrarch style vampire, because it's got vampire-y head.
That's true. Yeah,
really
maybe
good.
just change the head and have like a bald.
Well, even if it doesn't have to be bald, it's got the vampire ears and sort of a vampiric face, but it also just like a what's it called? A necromancer, as you said. It just works on so many levels, and it's so foreboding.
You can use the necromunda again as like a scabby wirid. You can use it as a wirid, as a psyker. You can use the zombies. Lots of crossover between a lot of different systems, and ultimately, I look at this and I want to paint it. Regardless of what game system you put it in, it just looks like a good miniature to paint.
Yeah. So next, I've got a few pictures of zombies. They're quite nice zombies. Ego zombie there, and then we're on to Solar Auxilia, Miles.
Yeah, the main thing we wanted to talk about, because we're both heresy heads. Well, actually, let's check out the feet first.
They've got very, I'm going to say, uniform feet in a way that they've got uniforms on.
Shin guards and feet, yes. Oh, God, yeah, this release. So, talking about getting excited for releases, especially after Heresy 2.0, it's lovely seeing Space Marines being released, getting mass plastics, like a Sakaran. But I already own a Sakaran. I wouldn't go out and buy another plastic one unless I was creating a new army. And I know this isn't true for like new players or other players, but for me, like a Sakaran, I've seen it already. Like I've done it already. Solar Auxilia, I mean, to a certain extent, that argument doesn't exactly translate, because I've seen these Solar Auxilia before. Why am I so excited for this? Well, it's a faction within Horus Heresy that isn't a Space Marine faction. It gives a visual difference to the universe, and I'm really happy with the translation of these miniatures.
Yes, I think they're faithful to the old Solar Auxilia. I've seen a few people saying they're missing like the padding on the arms, things like that, but I don't think that's intrinsic to what the Solar Auxilia look is. It just was on the old model. Well, I think it just was on the old model rather than it needs to be on there for them to be Solar Auxilia.
Yeah, and it's so I did read an Instagram post by the guy who designed these for release in plastic, and he said it was a very challenging job because he didn't have much time to do it. And I mean, looking at the arms in particular, like there's some soft detailing between the crook of the gun and his arm, and the arm does look a little bit generic, but having said that, the trade-off you get against these kits, the durability of plastics against resin, because, I mean, you're a Solar Auxilia player, right? How many of those las guns have you lost by them snapping off at the end?
So I used that Evil One's Lunar Auxilia for my Solar Auxilia.
Right, okay.
But the amount of Deathcore rifles that I've had snap, or Katachan rifles that I've had snap, these
so getting them in plastic is a bit of a godsend like that. I own a Death Guard army, Death Corps of Krieg army. I haven't played them, but I've still got weapons snapped off them, and it is very, very annoying.
Yeah, well, especially when your army is put on the table, and then to take them off with the like rates of fire everything have, you put your hand on the table and sweep into your tray before moving to the next table. It is you can't be precious with a guard army or human based army in any of these games.
I think the biggest hit from this collection is actually the vehicles. So a Dracosian and a Malcador is this big chunk of resin. Sorry, do you want to stop and have a look?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm just flicking through. I was slowly going through I passed the Vexilla again. I love I will always be a highlight for me. Vexillas. Let's just skip past it because I'm just going to say Vexilla things.
Vexillas are awesome, yeah. So the biggest winner of this are the vehicles, because the Dracosian and Malcador is just a big lump of resin. Dealing with the old resin Proteuses, Land Raiders for Space Marines, gorgeous kit, but it would always chip. You'd pick it up, and inevitably it would chip. You move it around on the tabletop, it would chip. Throw a dice at it, it would chip. Store it in foam, it would chip. Plastic, you're still going to have those issues with hard wearing, but they aren't going to be as prevalent. Because of the lighter material, there isn't as much physical weight on them, and they aren't going to chip anywhere near as much as the previous. And the great thing is, it looks like it's just like a one-to-one replication of the original kits. I know these were originally designed in CAD. I'm not sure how hard it would have been to translate them over to plastic, but it seems like a fairly faithful replication of them.
Yeah, like down to the trench rail, and they have got a solid Malcador-esque, like hull-mounted weapon at the front, which is different than the old range. I think the old range was based off the Deathcore of Krieg. Well, it was in the Vrax, but
Tanks.
the riser pattern.
Riser pattern,
and this has a gun shield and sort of a solid up-down yaw rotation. Whatever that is. Whatever that is. I'm trying to sound smart.
Yeah.
I shouldn't, because I just fail. So it's got that, and it's really nice, and it's got some nice little touches, like the square opening hatches at the top for the pintle, and I think it gives it a nice archaic look, like Imperial technology sort of has at this time.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of the authentic Imperial look, we had a bit of a disagreement this morning, so much so I actually quit the cast, and we had to give ourselves a little bit of a cool down time before we can talk to each other
Miles,
again.
you're wrong.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm absolutely not. So the Aethon Heavy Sentinel, I love this kit. I really, really love this kit, but you don't like it. Why?
Right. So it's what the difference boils down to, and for anyone thinking this is ending on the second episode, we didn't really have that bust up, though I'm sure we will next time we see each other over this. I just personally don't like this model. It's very derpy, and I've grown to appreciate derpiness, like the old Solar Macarius model. Looks very derpy, got massive stupid hands, but it looks amazing, and it's got all the filigree, and it looks really nice in its heroic scale proportion. This is derpy in a different way, like a steampunk that +1 derpiness. That, yes, it looks like a diving capsule, that Solar Auxilia have very much that deep sea divers look to them. So I think it fits with them. I do see that it fits with them, but then it's got this overweighted Onager style mounting for a multi-laser. Like,
right, yeah.
It's just I personally don't like the aesthetic. It's not a bad model by any stretch. It's not, do you know? You don't look at it and go, "Oh, that's the face of a 2008 sculpted Bretonnian lord." But
yeah, so all the reasons you just mentioned why you dislike it is the reasons why I like it. Imperial technology has been made with the emphasis. So Jez Goodwin talked about this in a White Dwarf years and years ago. But all Imperial technology is based on a fist that has these lines to it. It looks clunky, unwieldy, and punchy, inevitable. And this has all those hallmarks of classic Imperial design. It looks like it could barely work. It looks like it has redundant
systems, like
layers,
the pistons and
systems, pistons. Like the armor plate on the front looks completely OTT for something. Yeah, like you say, is wielding around a multi-laser. It looks like it can't move. Like it can't turn around. Like it has no pivot to it whatsoever. It looks clunky. It looks awkward. It looks a bit like a Fisher-Price toy.
In fact, that's a good part. How does it turn? Because it's got a piston that goes down into the foot that carries on all the way up.
Yeah, it has to just sort of like do this a lot.
Yeah, like it has to just like take a bigger step on one side each time to turn round.
Yeah, it would take about 10 minutes to turn 90 degrees. It's just completely unusable. And that's why I love it. That's why I love this. That's why I want. And I've had this fantasy for a while of, and the feet are great on it as well. I've had this fantasy for a while of having a knight in Necromunda in the wastes, a guy who's plugged into the machine spirit and it's just completely fried him. And he thinks in his mind that he is an Arthurian knight and he's traveling around Britain in a quest for the Grail, when actually he's just like a dude in this night blowing people away at random. I think something like this would be great to use in Necromunda. Or you can ally it with enforcers, with an Arbites squad as like this enforcement vehicle. Because it has a bit like of that Ed 209 vibe to it as well, which I'm all into. Yeah, love it. Love this. I cannot wait. Even if I don't own a Solar Auxilia collection, I want to have at least one of these painted up just to satisfy some kind of like primal urge that this elicits in me.
And yeah, let's move on from the Solar range, which is surely... Is this the biggest one? Is this the biggest one of the releases, the Solar?
I think, I mean, it comes in a box set as well. I mean, we've seen 2 box sets revealed, at least. I think there's one for Dawnbringers as well. But, I mean, of all the... So if I do a new Horus Heresy army, sometime down the line, inevitably I will. I either want to make it Solar Auxilia, because I've done a couple of Space Marines armies, Sons of Horus and Blood Angels. It'll either be Solar Ox, because humans are awesome, and I want that walker en masse, or Dark Mech.
Yeah.
And I think by the time I come...
long-promised Dark Mech.
And I think by the time I want to collect a new Horus Heresy army, I hopefully will see designs for that. But yeah, long-awaited Dark Mech. Because I think that's going to be like a big shift in Horus Heresy to introduce those.
Yeah, well,
more Imperial Fist things, please.
Well, even more human things, right? Or non-marine things. Because you get the scale of Marines when you see these Solar on the table. That gives you the counterpoint. Like the Remembrances in the Horus Rising novel. You get how big and powerful the Marines are, rather than... Have you ever seen the Mitchell and Webb sketch where they're like, the giants of Ipswich take on the titans of Derby, making them both appear regular-sized? And it's like that when you play Marine. Whereas these would give proper scale by being so squishy. So,
I mean, overall, what are your impressions from the LVO releases? What do you think of them?
Do you know what? We've gone through them, and other than the ones that we've skipped, I'd say we've gone through like 65% plus.
Yeah,
of
I mean, even the
releases.
ones we've missed, like the Warcry, Pyre and Blood, great sculpts. It's just I don't think either of us are into that particular into those factions. But with very Harlequin-esque from the elves and great like death units. I don't think there's really a miss in you. I don't think there's anything you can look at and think that is a bad sculpt. I don't like it. There might be aspects of it that you just simply don't enjoy or you're not into. I mean, and that's cool. But yeah, for the majority, I think they're all hits. They're very, very solid preview.
Yeah. So next, shall we go on to the inner part of the spam baguette?
Oh God, yeah. Let's talk about it. Let's do it. The debacle of the End and the Death.
Yes.
Volume 3. Ugh.
Yeah. Well, this is an ongoing issue, right? So, on top of what Miles is going to tell you, then, because I was at first neutral, and then I was considering across the day after we talked about it in the first recording, and I was like, "Oh no! I have got, in fact, a point to say on this." So you go first. And then...
Okay, so I'll review the situation.
Yeah.
End in the Death, Volume 3. This is the last book in the Siege of Terra series. You can buy them normally. You can get them on Audible, but they've released special edition books for them that we've been collecting. I always get the feeling that I was going to miss out on one because there's only 2,000 of them. Other people are collecting them. You get the odd scalper here and there. And it's just sort of like name of the game. Like if you got one, great. If other people got them, you get to like congratulate them, you get to cheer them on, or you get to help people try and find new ones if they missed out. But this one, it left a real sour taste in my mouth for a few reasons. One was the ticketing system that they had. So Games Workshop, if you were able to buy in-store, there was no ticketing system. You could go in, make your purchase, leave. I know a couple of people, so of all the people I know in my extended sort of like community ranges, only 3 people managed to get one, which is completely out of whack with what normally happens. Like a majority of my friends are able to get them, or people I know are able to get them. You go into a store, you could purchase them. There was a ticketing system. Now, the ticketing system was odd for a few reasons. I mean, principally that you joined a queue at 40, and they tell you you have 47 minutes to wait. You'd wait for half an hour, and it'd say you'd have like 3 minutes left. Okay, that's odd. Okay, perhaps people have left. You get to go up to, oh, you have more than an hour to wait. So something was really sketchy from the outset on this. And then on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock, you had like 5 different accounts on eBay scalping the book, multiple copies of the book, listings 5, 6, 7, 10, 20 books at a time. How on earth were those people able to buy that many books in bulk? Turns out, with a little bit of sleuthing, that around, and this is sort of like back of the cigarette packet calculations, around 10% of the total amount was sold to scalpers.
And that's if they were immediately listed on eBay, right? Rather than...
Yeah. So these figures come from a guy called Leaky Cheese on X. I saw this on Twitter, where he took the total amount of sales, he saw the listings on eBay, and he calculated the rates off that. Now, we don't have official numbers, so we simply don't know. But that's as close as we can estimate as possible. Now, the reason why it was so hard buying the books in the first place and why scalpers were able to just hoover them up was that they were able to fool the system into thinking that they were store points. So you're a scalper. I can enter my details and I can mimic myself as a store, and they can keep going in again and again and again, bumping you back in the queue continuously, buying up as many as they like.
Yeah.
Very, very, very depressing way to spend a Saturday afternoon, very disheartening way to end the heresy on.
Yeah, it's a shame. Like, obviously they've tried to implement a new system, and it's just not working. So this morning, I was saying, like, oh, I had no horse in this race. Do you know, like?
Yeah, you weren't collecting the limited editions.
Yeah, like, and I was saying they shouldn't be limited. They should be special editions, maybe made to order, so that it just circumvents the issue. However, as it has become like formulated in my brain, the singular issue sort of isn't good enough, in that if, say, someone the point was made, someone's other half worked for Kellogg's and is a stock manager for Kellogg's. If they can't deliver their stock, that is a serious, serious problem in the company. And do you know, like, heads will roll. And if, like, Games Workshop is obviously, the share price is going up, they're doing very well, and they seem to be getting away with that, like the lack of stock and issues, just simply based on like profitability of the company. But what profitability is left behind that they're now not getting? Because of, like, if they definitely would have been stock for all of these Heresy Siege or the Siege releases, well, I would have bought it, and I imagine a lot more people would have bought it, and I know people that have dropped out halfway through, and do you know what, they would have been buying it. It also comes into the Legion Imperialis release being bungled Like even though
yeah.
they delay, I don't even mean the delay. I'm happy with the like, oh, the game isn't in a finished state or whatever went wrong in August. We've delayed it till December. Now I still know people that haven't received that set. The old world, Element Games is the biggest online retailer in Europe. Made an order for 500 copies of the old world and got told last week they were going to receive 20. So if the biggest online retailer in Europe is only receiving 20 copies of this box, what is going on with the stock issues?
They gain a reputation for being unreliable now.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, this is a symptom of a bigger issue. There are many different ways. I mean, especially with this book, they could have solved it. A better ticketing system. They could have opened the sales for a full weekend. Whoever bought one, even if it takes 6 months, a year and a half, I wouldn't really care as long as I got access to that book in the end. There are just so many solutions to this problem that they just don't seem motivated to address. And the stock issue, I've been waiting for Horus Ascended for a commission for 2 months, still out of stock. I don't know whether they are just spread too thin, whether the move has had longer of an impact than they initially realized because they've moved warehouses. But there's something fundamentally wrong about the delivery system right now. And it's frustrating because the Deathwing release is this weekend, tomorrow. I have clients who could potentially be interested in that, but I'm not bothering chasing that up because I know I won't be able to get access to it. Instead, I'm going to go through like third-party retailers or anybody selling it secondhand. Because what is the point? I mean, in the run-up to this book, the stress, the anxiety, every single week thinking, God, is this going to be the week where I miss out? And it was something I should be like enjoying. This should have been like a joyous, triumphal end to this cycle of books. Like this is the capstone of the series. This could be the most important story told in Warhammer lore. And for it to be undercut like this and be left with that sour impression, it's sort of like a rather than a.
Yeah, and like sort of in summary, I think like and this isn't a single Games Workshop member of staff. They're hobbyists that are passionate and just happen to work for Games Workshop. In end, give me ways to take my money. Give me ways to take my money, like, because that's what it boils down to. We all want to buy these things, and
they've got a machine, haven't they? They've built this very good advertising machine that's been geared up, but they simply haven't got the follow through with it at all. And they are increasingly getting a reputation for unreliability. And once that happens to a company, well, it's a downward spiral. And So I know a lot of influencers who get sent stuff as well. Please don't abuse them. They aren't responsible for the stock. They aren't responsible for getting
the stock levels. And this is
they are for the most part passionate hobbyists who are just like getting sent free stuff from a company they love. Awesome. Of course they're going to show it off. Of course they're going to be excited about it. Don't send them abuse. It's not their fault.
Yeah, and this is off two people that do not get free stuff off Games Workshop. So
yeah,
that is the middle part of the sandwich, and
yeah.
Let's get onto a bit of a lighter note. Let's
pump it up again.
Yeah.
Let's really pump it up again. Let me put on the hobby light. Transfer across. Like we know that everything produced today is absolute shit. So I have to go.
Right. Let me compose myself.
Yeah, so I mean, part of the reason why we do this, we mide on nostalgia, and I've just been flicking through some of these old books. Weirdly, what I've been sort of like looking at today is like the sample army lists you could develop. So we talked about this in the last issue, in the last episode.
Oh no, we call them issues now. Let's call them issues.
Issues. This book, you buy a lord and you build a retinue around him. It feels very modular doing it that way. It feels really, that's how I want to build this new army. I'm just looking in here. Chaos Warrior Warband, the Doombringers. It's just 12 dudes, a lord, and knights. But that screams possibility to me. That is possibility right there. That's a dream, unrealized. I'm going to realize it with this old classic dude. He is the new lord, so I've got him built. I've done all my gap filling. I've got all these built. They are ready and raring to go. I've even been slapping some paint on this little wonderful creature.
Ooh.
Yeah.
A spawn?
So this is the spawn from Sile the Faithless, the Tamakan character.
That looks horrendous in a good way.
Yeah, looks great, right? It helps that the sculpt is so good. So there's a little saying I have that the better the sculpt, the less you have to work as a painter. You could slap chop this, whack a load of contrast paint over the top, and it'll look like a Golden Demon entry. It is that good of a sculpt. But I'm like embellishing it a little bit more than that. So that will be the core of my first force. I'm doing a big gap filling on some dogs. I'm not quite ready to reveal yet. I've got 10 guys. I've got 10 Chaos Warriors. Oh, let the light readjust.
No, we'll keep you in darkness since you're talking about chaos.
Yeah, chaos and darkness. I've got 10 Chaos Warriors. I have a spawn. I have a lord. I have a retinue. I am ready to go. Yeah, I cannot wait. Cannot wait to actually do it like a test piece. Basing, I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for the square basing. And we talked about last time how I want to set it in a very particular location.
Yes.
Dragon Grave. So I've ordered some 3D parts to be printed up and be shipped over to me from America, waiting for those to unfortunately, I couldn't buy the STL files. They print them as on demand. So I'm waiting for those to be shipped over so I can start like imagining the force and the layout of it. But yes, the first 10 warriors are done. The dogs are done. The spawn is there. It feels like I have my first retinue of my army.
Awesome.
Very excited.
Awesome.
How about you? How's your collecting going?
So I have basically...
You had that muslin idea, right? That was a cracking idea.
Do you know what?
A phenomenal idea.
It was all right, and at some point I might get to it. So I've not moved away from the Bretonnians. I've been looking, basically. I was looking at one of my favourite Bretonnians ever, and that is the Bretonnian Lord on Horse with axe.
Oh,
right?
I know the guy, sort of like, it was painted black and white. Yeah.
Yes, that's one.
So people normally say the Green Knight, so it is nice to hear a different knight mentioned.
I like how grounded it is and how gritty, and it's almost like the old Question Knights had baggage on the back of them, and this knight has just a little bit. It's not super over the top, but it's got bits of that. So it's got nods to a questing nature. So I was looking at this.
Sorry to interject here, to completely cut across you. Sorry, but my second favorite Bretonnians, because my favorite is Green Knight. My favorite is Green Knight, but my second one is the Grail Knight champion that the Perry brothers done. The guy with the sword up in the air.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
The Green Knight is just too small for me now. It's very small for like a character model, especially like a Fey character model.
Yeah.
And like when you actually rank it up next to other Bretonnian models, it actually feels very small because I've got one in the other room.
It's very much of its time. Phenomenal sculpt, and in isolation still holds up. But I'm gonna get that problem with my Chaos Lord on foot when you rank him up against like Chosen or anything like that. Yeah, he's just completely...
He can be like Chaos Lord Valdrek the Stunty. Or whatever.
The stunty, short. I'm just going to put him on a big dragon base and like boost him up. Have you seen the video of the guy at a bar shooting his shot like he's chatting a girl up? And the guy's videotaping. I was like, God bless this guy. I'm not going to rat on him. He's standing on a bar stool.
Right.
Like his feet are... I think I'm going to go for a similar vibe with this guy.
Right, okay.
Lord Barstool.
There you go.
Sorry, you were saying about the Muslim project.
No, so
yes.
the the downfall of my Museum project. So I was looking at this night, and I'd also been looking at the Outcasts list in the Arcane Journal. Pictures floating about on the in the internet. Thank you for that. You have completely derailed my project. So I was looking at that, and I was like, these Outcast knights in the Border Princes sound really cool, and they've got a cannon and brigands, and it sounded perfect for Mausolon. And then I was like, right, I need to find a podcast to sit down to this project. So I flicked through my podcast and was like, oh, Dan Carlin's got a new podcast that I missed in November. So I stuck that on.
Really?
Yeah, Twilight of the Aesir 2.
Oh, right. Okay, great. That's what I'm listening to this weekend.
There
okay,
you go.
Cool.
And it talks all about basically the downfall of the knights, both in Eastern Europe and fighting between the British or the English and Danes in the West. So I'm listening to this more and more, and he starts talking about proto knights with the Normans, and this is like 200 years before like proper knights exist, right?
Sure.
So I'm looking at the Bretonian age, and I'm like range, and I'm like, oh, and we're playing a game that's 200 years before, like when these models were released for, and thinking about the mythology, and I thought I should do a force in these. They've been exiled from Bretonia, and I've got both this historical basis that is 200 years before, of like Old English, like Camelot, like age English, which obviously ties into the Bretonian lore as well. But then for the knights, I want them to be really contrasting and almost like high examples of knightlyhood that I then dirty up. So I start out painting them in these vibrant themes because that's something that I want to do. Is I want to spend more time on individual models. And I was already planning a force for Mausolon with like 6 knights in. Six Knights of the Realm. It was 6 Pegasus. And I was like, right, this is perfect. I've got a small number of knights. They're going to be like the photo ops. And then even if I'm taking a picture of peasants, they'll be in the background. So I was looking at this, and it all started sort of fitting together with like this riot of colour. And then I've got the contrasting like grim force in the background. And essentially, yeah, I've ended up on looking at the Foot Knights for Games Workshop. And I don't really think it fits. I don't like them as knights for the Bretonia range. I actually think they're quite good for Empire if you change out the heads. So they've not got the big sort of, when is it like
heraldic designs?
Yeah, like when I can't remember when they wear it, but the heraldic designs on the top. But they're in full plate armor, and that sort of pushed me back into, because I was going to do these Bretonia Men at Arms, standard Foot Knights. So, and it was like they just don't fit what I'm going for as a look of, and they also don't fit the knights. So in the sort of like standard knight kit, they're all in mail. They've got a helmet and some greaves on. So I started looking at pictures of King Arthur, and because I started looking at early pictures of King Arthur, like 1400s, and they're in the time of when they were drawn. Like medieval artists had this they sort of transplanted their own time onto what they were drawing. So
Arthurian legends rife with that.
Yeah, exactly.
He's less of a historical figure. He's more of a reflection of whatever society needs him to be.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So what that then ended up with is these knights that I already wanted to do quite vibrant. They're going to be the Arthurian style knights that are depicted as whatever the society wants them to be. So these larger than life characters that just display absolute fantasy.
So they are the influencers of the time.
Yeah,
they're knight influencers.
Basically, you get this snapshot of them that is completely not real at all.
Yeah.
And then I started thinking like the foot troops, the peasants. I need to replace these knights of the realm. So after looking through some 3D prints and listening to the Dan Carlin cast, I wanted them with great weapons, and then that led me into the Victrix range of Huskarls, basically, for my line of Huskarls, and then I've got peasants that will essentially have their shields replaced with large round shields. I'm still going to maintain the fantasy weapons, but change out the heads for like a late Saxon head, or even a helmet. So I'm going to chop the heads off and replace just the helmet. So they've still got all like the Bretonian head look, which is all like horrible peasant grim face, and then just the helmet that I want on top.
Do you have pictures up at the moment on the cast?
So I've got the ones that I sent you before of the.
Are they up on screen now?
Yeah, literally now.
Okay, great.
So we've got the banner and the dude.
So we were talking about this project in the run-up to it in the Discord server, and you did mention this project, and my worry was, I've had this with other students, where they want to go with a slightly more like grim, realistic look to them, and they'll use miniatures like Victrix, like Perry Miniatures. They'll start building an army, and then 2/3 of the way through, they'll think, this doesn't work. Like the aesthetic of it doesn't work. The models don't work. They're not big enough. They're not bulky enough. They're not Warhammer enough. So we were chatting on the Discord server. Not that it's the wrong way to go. Historical isn't the wrong way to go. But you need to be cognizant. You need to be thinking about these things, right? You need to be thinking about, this isn't a historical game we're playing. It's a fantasy historical game with historical elements kind of all jumbled up into it. I mean, we were talking about White Scars with katanas. And if you go for the Mongolian theme, why would they have Japanese weaponry? It's because it's a fantasy world. Yeah. You could do whatever the hell you want. And I was worried that you'd be grounding it too much. And the aesthetic, when you look at it, you might be a little unhappy with or dissatisfied with. Because when you look at them, you think, I may as well just be playing a historical game.
Yeah.
So it was edifying to see the concept miniatures you've produced, and how they have a nice grounded element to it, but they're still recognizably Warhammer.
Yeah, so I think the Huskarl which is the left with the banner, might need the sword replacing, because we need the heroic scale to the sword, right? And I'll have some swords definitely left over from the Men at Arms box that I bought the last Men at Arms box ever sold in the UK. So I rung round.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So I was in the Manchester store and I was like, I'm desperate for a Men at Arms box. And the manager in Manchester, Games Workshop store, rang round every Games Workshop and found one for me. So
wow.
I got that. I split the nights with a friend. I got all the Men at Arms and Bowmen. So the Men at Arms here, like I'll have some swords left over from that box.
Yeah.
And like as soon as I get the army box for Bretonians, like I'll have loads, right? So I'm going to replace the swords because the weapons are just a bit small. They're not the heroic scale. And I was worried about the scale difference. So luckily, one of my friends had literally hi Glenn, had just bought a Victrix box to do sort of a similar thing in reverse. He was adding Warhammer. He wanted all these very small models in I can't remember what fantasy game he was playing. He's not Warhammer. And then to add larger than life champions almost he just does art pieces rather than even gaming that much. So I got him to send me some pictures with a ruler. And I was like, do you know what? Because I'd been looking at 3D prints so I could control the scale myself. Do you know what? They're not far. I'll try it. And it's turned out that the Victrix Huskarls are actually, with all the bulk of like I don't know, whatever clothes they've got on underneath the chainmail, it's not that different. They're actually slightly taller anyway. And then I've left them on these bases because the Huskarls will be the knights. So they'll be slightly larger than life figures in the Warhammer world. And it was something that I was really concerned about because I was going to go 3D printing just to get around it. But when they turned up, they were really good. And it allayed my fears.
I mean, put them together the way you have. It works. It's recognizably Warhammer. It looks good. It looks good. I really like what you've done with them, and shift the theme. I think as long as you got the follow through with it, you'll be fine. Yeah, and it's So, running into next month, we've been sort of like mentioning the didn't say this because they always fail, but the Tale of Gamers challenge that we're undergoing. So on the Discord server, I run a hobby Discord server. We're doing the Tale of Gamers. It's super chill. I'm not expecting any articles from anybody. We aren't going to push out into like this full-blown crusade. Instead, every month we're going to be setting a challenge for our warlords, and there'll be a secondary challenge to accompany it. So this month, in the month of January, it was Declare Your Allegiance. Because the box set wasn't released, things aren't released, and we've seen like a drip-fed thing coming out. So all you have to do this month is just declare what you're going to be collecting, how much, roughly. So based on like older things.
You don't mean for the first month, you mean total across like the entire project, right?
So for the first month, you just declare what you'll be doing for the full challenge. Yeah, exactly. And then saying how much you'll be collecting based on whatever you like, really. So I'm basing mine on like 8th ed fantasy. So I'm going to be collecting roughly 2.4 thousand points. And then list an intention behind it. So why do you want to be collecting these? What is it about this collection that'll get you going? So a lot of people they want to refine non-metallic metal. Other people, they want to collect an army to paint with. Clarifying your intention at the outset of a project, I find helps people focus. So when you get things like Solar Auxilia come up, or when you get other distractions come up in your life, you're not led astray. Instead, you can focus solely on that project. So that's what we're doing this month in January.
Yeah.
Declare your allegiance, what you'll be painting, and why.
Yeah, and just to say there, Miles's Discord is public. So if anyone wants to join, we'll post a link.
It's completely free to join. Yep.
Yeah. If you want to get involved in a different way, like what we're going to be doing is scouring Instagram, maybe every week, maybe every month, but certainly every time we do a video that looks at the hobby, like at the Slowgrow, and that'll be minimum once a month, right?
Yeah.
Hashtag.
Yeah. Hashtag. What did we say last
New
time?
Old World. New Old World. You can't forget yourself. Yeah.
New Old World, and we'll also be looking at anything with a hashtag Hobby Hammer attached to it as well.
But we're looking for feet on that one.
Feet in particular, yeah. Lots of feet pick, please, or feet related posts would be ideal. Hobby Hammer, yes. And anything Old World related, New Old World. And then, like you say, every month we're going to be rounding it up.
Yeah. So declare your intentions for next month then, Miles. What are you going to be working
So I'm going to be setting the challenge for the Warlords to collect 500 points, at the very least.
Yeah, so that's everyone, 500 points.
Collect it, paint it, have it done by, I think we agreed on like the 20th of Feb?
Well, I think if it's done by the end of the month, we will... God, give me a second here. I'm going to have to look at my calendar now. The last Friday of the month is the 23rd.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, it's a short month in February. So yeah, the 20th we'll look at, that would be the final date for looking at.
Get done by the 20th, ish.
If you want us to look at it, basically.
Yeah, we'll have any entries that have been submitted. We'll have a look at it.
If not, stick it in anyway. We'll look at it the next month.
Yes.
Essentially.
So that is the challenge to get it done. 500 points done by the 20th-ish, end of February. And running alongside this, I want to declare a Warlord of the month. A member of the community I feel like has gone a little bit above and beyond, who has really caught my eye, who's driven their project, who just purely subjective that I like the work of that month. So if you've got the picture of the Dark Elf execution.
Oh, we're not going through all of them.
I'll run. Oh, do you want me to?
No, go you Dark Elf.
I've done it in a completely different way. So Lycanar, who is collecting Dark Elves, 5th edition Dark Elves. He has a whole army in metallics in blister that he's opening up for this challenge. He's really playing to my sensibilities as a Dark Elf player. And what's been impressive for me is not only the test piece he's been able to produce, it's his thinking behind it, like things like the axe head, how a lot of the classic artwork from around this era had like a blank matte black face, and then the edge would only be developed.
Yeah,
Things like
the
that.
blend on the front of that axe head as well is really effective. Like
Yeah, the technicality of actually pulling off the color scheme as well is been really fun to see this artist take off with this project. So you are the Warlord of the Month, which gives you a little crown, imaginary crown that I'm not going to send to you. But in a more real sense, what this does is give you the chance to declare the secondary pledge for this month. Last month, first pledge was what you're collecting and why. Then the secondary pledge was produce a test piece from this, kind of like a little bonus to give the community. So because you are the Warlord of the Month, you get to decide what's the secondary objective for the month of February. Please make it realistic. Please don't make it collect a Thunderhawk or paint 5,000 points. So that will be your reward.
Yeah, and we'll be announcing. Obviously, we'll get in contact with the person that is the winner of that month, and let everyone know what the secondary is for that month on the cast.
Yeah.
Yeah. So next we've got the I was going to say beautiful spawn, but not the really disturbing spawn with the blue fire and the flesh color. These have got so much character in, and the flesh color makes them all the more horrible. The blue is really nice. Normally, I really hate flame effects on any model, and also the fact that it's pulling itself out of a chaos worshipper of some sort.
Yeah, it's really I think it's that grounded element to it as well, right? How the flesh looks very realistic, but you're not used to seeing it distorted and warped in that way. It's the first finished miniatures on the challenge, and this is by Knuckles 3920. So thank you very much for that submission, Knuckles 3920. Somebody who came very close in the form of the Bretonians, who did get very close to becoming the Warlord of the Month with Dark Horse painting. And he's produced a very quick, easy, simple recipe for men-at-arms, for bowmen. And he's also done a really nice knight.
Yeah.
He's done a really nice knight as well. The knight he's done is fantastic. Love the heraldry of it. But you can see how effective, quick color schemes can give you a good overall look to your miniatures, rather than spending God knows how many hours on each of them. So a very impressive start to the
one thing as well is I think the base as well here, and it's something that's allowed by fantasy models much more than normally the industrial absolutely destroyed bases we do for Heresy.
Yeah.
The different aspects that he's got on the base, even just the leaf litter and a herbaceous plant and a couple of different tufts. I think there's 2 different styles of tufts there. Looks really good and natural on that model, and just looks really perfect. It almost, when you get basing right, it blends in, and I almost didn't look at it, and I have to remind myself to look at it, and it's like, the reason I didn't look at it was very, very good. For even such a simple thing.
Yeah.
And I did want to highlight that.
Just flicking through it's just a really nice place to be and just interact with people, because it's not a Discord server that has a huge amount of people on there. So you feel like you get to know the people on there, you have conversations with people, just flicking through people's hobbies and enjoyment and seeing the development of it. It's been a nice start to this challenge, and long may that feeling continue.
Yeah. So Miles, for your 500 points, have you planned it out yet?
Yeah, so it's the 6 dogs there, but dogs, spawn, character, and 10 Chaos Warriors. I'm not sure if that is 500 points or not. In my head, it's 500 points, so that's what I'm going for with the initial.
You'll be able to make it 500 points, right? Like
with a power weapon.
It's
a chaos list. Yeah, I think it's a manageable, realistic amount for me to paint within a month as well.
How many knights is that? Did you say?
Oh, sorry. How many Chaos Warriors? Like I got 10 Chaos Warriors. I was thinking you could just throw a couple of magic items.
Oh,
in there.
I thought you said some knights. I was like, oh, They're looking
No,
at they're
no
like
Knights of the
300
Mole.
points for
No,
like 6.
I'm putting. So I want to do something special for the Knights because the emphasis is on Knights and a retinue and the fast-moving elements of it. That's the bit I'm sort of like heading towards. That's the bit I'm looking forward to the most. I have a conversion in mind for that. But anyway, enough of ifs and could be's. What's your 500 points for the next cycle?
So with the 500 points, I've got, and I've got 22 men at arms,
Oh my
10
God.
bowmen.
Okay. Right.
I've got 6 knights of the realm and 2 paladins,
Jesus.
and that's 500 points.
Are you going to have all that stuff built by the end of February?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Surely. I reckon I'll have it built by. I'm picking it up tomorrow morning, like the Bretonian box. I've got about half the men at arms built already.
Okay.
I've got 4 bowmen built. So I reckon I'll get it built by Sunday night because there's not actually that much conversion work in there. What I want to spend more time on is actually the paint scheme. And although I'm going for this realistic grim paint scheme, like grim dark paint scheme for the foot troops, to contrast it, the knights I want to be really vibrant. So what I've actually done is previously I was making a knight's transfer sheet for Bretonians. I was doing this actually for Phil. If anyone listens to the Road to Reichland podcast, this was Phil's knight transfer sheet that I was making for him that he never did anything with. And I also didn't paint the army when I then said I would. So yeah, what I want to do is do a nice heraldic scheme, and I've made myself in the bottom left corner of this transfer sheet fleur-de-lis and a crosshatch, because I've been looking at, is it Bretonian Army Painter on Instagram, who does some beautiful like fleur-de-lis and crosshatch schemes. And I wanted to make it easier, so I've made a transfer sheet that will allow me to just, I'm going to basically trace a transfer. So I'm going to put that on, trace a transfer, and I've only got 6 knights to do across the entire army. So even if all I do is get to point of putting the transfers on, put the base on, even if this isn't 100% finished with like the semi-freehand, that's where I want to get up to for the 500 points, is getting it so that anytime I put down some peasants, because I imagine there's going to be a lot of peasants in this army, anytime I put down some peasants, I can have a passion project of these knights where I do like a nice border or some like heraldic dressing.
Something interesting to do, yeah. And it's worth bearing in mind, don't freak out too much or don't worry too much if you don't hit your target for the month. February is a short month. We're all insanely busy all the time. The point of this challenge is as a gentle push in the right direction. It's not something to become worried about and all-consuming. It's a nice, friendly push and nudge and encouragement from a community. That's all it is.
Yeah, well, as well, one thing to say is, alongside this, like Phil is restarting the Road to Reichland podcast. We've also booked a date for a fantasy event on the 13th of June. So whatever point we were all up to with our Slowgrows, and Phil is also doing the Slowgrow, so he'll be invested in this. That will be the points level for that event.
So 4-ish months away, 4 months away. Okay, let's see what we can do. Yeah. Let's see what we can do in that time.
Yeah. And that's all from me today, Miles.
Yep, that's all I've got as well. I'm going to get another beer and try and fall asleep after this.
Quality. Right.
Yeah.
Hopefully you guys sleep tight. In a bit.